Florida's housing market has officially reached a boiling point, and it's sending shockwaves through the entire state. Prices aren't just high, they're skyrocketing at a rate that even economists didn't predict. In cities like Miami, Tampa, and Fort Lauderdale, the average home price has surged over 20% within the past few months. Families who once dreamed of owning a small home are now watching those dreams vanish as prices climb beyond their reach. The story is the same across every corner of Florida. From coastal neighborhoods to quiet inland towns, the cost of living is rising faster than paychecks can keep up. Local residents are calling it the new gold rush, but not in a good way. Investors and developers are snapping up properties in bulk, leaving ordinary people to compete with corporations that can pay in cash. As a result, bidding wars have become the norm, and first-time buyers are being pushed completely out of the market. Meanwhile, rent prices are soaring right alongside home values, creating a crisis that feels impossible to escape. For many Floridians, the question is no longer, can I afford a home, but can I even afford to stay here? The market's heat isn't just a coincidence. Florida's population has exploded over the last decade as people from high-tax states like New York and California move south seeking sunshine and savings. But the influx has overwhelmed local housing supply. Builders can't keep up with demand, materials are more expensive, and land is running out in desirable areas. Add to that a rise in interest rates and insurance costs, and you've got a market that's overheated from every angle. The situation has reached the governor's desk. He recently admitted in a press briefing that the state's affordability crisis is out of control. His frustration was obvious. He pointed to federal policies, investor greed, and poor planning as the main culprits behind the chaos. For the first time, state officials are discussing possible measures to cool the market before it collapses. What's clear is this: Florida's housing market isn't just on fire, it's burning too hot. And if nothing changes soon, that fire might consume the dreams of millions who just want a place to call home. When Governor Ron DeSantis stepped up to the podium last week, the tension in the room was undeniable. Reporters were waiting for answers. The housing market was crumbling, families were desperate, and Florida's once booming real estate dream had turned into a nightmare. His tone was sharp, frustrated, and unlike his usual composed delivery. "We are losing control of this market," he said, his voice echoing through the press room. "People can't afford to live in their own state anymore, and that's not acceptable." This wasn't just another press briefing. It was a moment of reckoning. The governor's team has been flooded with complaints from residents across South Florida. Stories of retirees losing their homes, working-class families priced out, and renters seeing their monthly payments double overnight. Local leaders the problem runs deep into politics. It's an economic story, one fueled by speculation, corporate greed, and policy failure. DeSantis announced several emergency measures in response. One includes a crackdown on corporate investors who are buying hundreds of single-family homes, converting them into rentals, and then hiking prices far beyond what local families can pay. Another focuses on speeding up construction approvals to increase housing supply. He also called for tighter insurance regulations after rates tripled in many counties, leaving homeowners unable to renew their policies. But even as he spoke, frustration was written all over his face. "This isn't sustainable," he warned. "You can't have a state where only outsiders can afford to buy homes." The governor's critics argue that the damage may already be done. With too much speculative buying and too little regulation, Florida could be heading straight for a market correction or even a crash. Behind the political tension lies a personal one. DeSantis has built much of his leadership image on stability and control, but the housing crisis threatens that reputation. The visuals of for sale signs gathering dust, condos sitting empty, and residents packing up to leave paint a grim picture. His message ended on a stark note: "We either fix this now or face consequences we can't afford." The room went silent, because everyone knew he wasn't exaggerating. Florida's real estate bubble isn't just bursting, it's exploding, and the governor knows he's running out of time to stop it. While Florida's housing market keeps making headlines for skyrocketing prices and record foreclosures, there's another crisis lurking beneath the surface: wages that simply can't keep up. For many Floridians, it feels like running on a treadmill that's speeding up every month. The harder they work, the the further behind they fall. In cities like Miami, Fort Myers, and Tampa, average home prices have doubled or even tripled since 2020. Yet wages have barely budged. The average worker in Florida earns around $22 an hour. That's about $45,000 a year before taxes. But when the median home costs more than $400,000 and rents are climbing past $2,000 a month, even full-time workers are being priced out of communities they serve. Teachers, nurses, and firefighters, the backbone of every town, are struggling to stay in the very places they protect and support. Economists have warned about this imbalance for years. When housing costs rise faster than income, it creates a fragile economy built on debt. People borrow more, spend less, and eventually something snaps. That snap is now visible across Florida. Empty storefronts, stalled construction projects, and families packing their lives into moving trucks to head north, searching for affordability. Local businesses are also feeling the pressure. Many can't find employees willing to work for wages that no longer cover basic living expenses. It's not that people don't want to work. One cafe owner in Naples said, "It's that they can't afford to live here anymore." This exodus of workers is hollowing out small towns and pushing service industries to the brink of collapse. Governor DeSantis has acknowledged the problem, but faces tough choices. Boosting wages could help, but it risks fueling more inflation. Capping rents or offering housing subsidies might slow the crisis. But critics argue that it only delays the inevitable market correction. For ordinary residents, though, the debate means little. What they see are bills rising faster than their paychecks, and dreams of homeownership slipping further away each year. It's not just an economic issue. It's an emotional one. People are losing faith in the promise that hard work pays off. In Florida, the sun still shines bright, but for many, the American dream has dimmed. The math no longer adds up, and until wages catch up to reality, the crisis will only deepen. Florida's housing market isn't just a story of rising prices. It's a story of who's buying and who's being pushed out. Over the past few years, massive investment firms, real estate trusts, and out-of-state buyers have poured billions into Florida's housing market, turning once affordable neighborhoods into profit machines. The result? Locals are being priced out of their own communities, forced to watch from the sidelines as their dream of homeownership fades further into the distance. In cities like Orlando, Tampa, and Fort Myers, entire blocks are now owned by corporate investors. These companies buy single-family homes in cash, outbidding ordinary buyers who rely on mortgages. They then convert those homes into high-rent properties or flip them for huge profits. To investors, it's just business, but to locals, it's personal. Families who've lived in the same towns for generations are being squeezed out by rising property taxes and rent hikes that feel almost predatory. This investor takeover has driven prices to record levels. According to recent data, nearly 1 in 5 homes sold in Florida last year went to an institutional investor. That means a large portion of the housing supply never even had a chance to go to families looking to settle down. And because these investors often hold properties off the market until prices surge, they're artificially driving up demand and worsening the housing shortage. For residents, it's become a vicious cycle. As rents soar, fewer people can save for a down payment. As fewer can buy, demand for rental spikes, which sends rent even higher. Meanwhile, investors collect their checks, often without ever setting foot in the state. What used to be a housing market built for people has become one built for profit. Governor DeSantis and other Florida leaders have started to take notice, discussing possible measures to limit bulk property purchases by corporations. But critics say the damage is already done, and without real reform, the imbalance will continue. For many Floridians, this feels like an invasion, not of people, but of money. Homes that were once part of neighborhoods are now part of investment portfolios. Locals who used to wave at their neighbors now see, for rent, signs on every corner. Florida may still be the Sunshine State, but for many of its residents, the warmth of homeownership is being slowly stolen by those who see houses not as homes, but as opportunities to cash in.